I'm good. How are you too?
Well, excellent here, of course. Theophilus here, and of course, my colleague here, Adibanke Oduni. Thank you so much for gracing this occasion and, of course, accepting our invitation. Now, let's talk about culture in Nigeria. Of course, you are an advertising guru, and you moved to telecoms as well, and, of course, now culture. How do you intend to drive cultural orientation at this point? Of course, in Nigeria, we see that many people, we don't really like to take on our culture, just a lot of few people who are pushing for our culture to be known within and outside the country. How do you intend on driving cultural orientation here?
Well, thank you very much. You must understand very clearly that every human being is born into some culture, and culture is as old as humanity itself. And culture is not something that gets obsolete. The more you advance in life or in anything, the more your activities become culture for the future or for the records. So culture is not something that we say any race can abandon or forget. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we had our culture truncated to a large extent and replaced with some other kinds of cultures. And we are suffering the backlash of that misplacement or displacement, as the case may be. But that's not the issue at this moment. The issue at this moment is that I have come to make Nigeria understand that Nigerians understand that we have every reason to appreciate our culture, for us to recognize who we are, and for us to be able to define, what we want to be. You cannot leave culture behind and think you can develop. Take for example, China. When China wanted to take that giant leap into development, culture was one of the most important things they took along with them. Their language, their cuisine, their mode of dressing, their ways of life, even their religion. They didn't leave anything. And as we speak today, whether we like it or not, China is among the biggest world leaders in everything, even technology, everything. Because they realized that culture was as important as the future and development. So they took it along. So Nigeria at this point, at this juncture, has every reason to understand, appreciate, and find a way to reenact our culture and bring it back to fore, to the front burner. That is probably the only way we can actually realize as, you see, I don't know, when we were young, culture was such that you couldn't toy with. It doesn't have to do with the perception people have tried to build of culture. That perception is as a result of the kind of exchange we had with our colonial masters, who felt that, for you to be able to colonize these people, take their culture away from them, give them another culture. And that culture you give them is the one they will now embrace forever. So it has hampered development, it has hampered growth, it has even hampered societal interaction. That's why today you see young people trying to behave like Americans. You see young people trying to imbibe the culture, foreign culture of the British, the Americans, just because they feel that is where the goodness of life is. Yes, please. I can hear you.
Otunba, what are the steps that you will take to correct misinformation as regards the cultural assumptions of our country? Because we are at a time where patriotism is at an all-time low, especially with the Japa wave and the situation of the economy and security.
Sorry, I didn't get that properly.
Okay. I said, what are the steps that you will take to correct misinformation as regards Nigeria's reputation abroad and also our culture, especially at a time where patriotism is at an all-time low, and with the Japa wave, insecurity, and our economic issues?
That's exactly the point. That is the whole essence of culture. That is the whole essence of cultural orientation. What does cultural orientation say? It says, look, orient your people, orientate them, or reorientate them with respect to the cultural importance of our people. See, the important thing is every vice you observe in this society is as a result of the fact that we've neglected our culture to a large extent. That people are no longer patriotic. See, I always cite the Chinese example, Japanese, Chinese, and Indians. See, the Chinese are all over the world, but you see them, they still propagate the culture, their culture from, wherever they are. You understand what I'm saying? So that is exactly what my responsibility is, at the aim of affairs of cultural orientation, that called National Institute for Cultural Orientation, to reorient the people with respect to what our cultural potency, the potency of our culture, the importance of our culture is, and how it can aid development. Because culture without development in mind becomes a bit of retardation. So it has to carry development. We must develop technology. Even our technology could not, look, the Chinese did not develop their technology without their culture. Culture is a way of life. Culture is one way, is a way you see the way you want to live your life, the kind of things that you do that makes your living within your environment positive and convenient is what culture is all about. So therefore, by the time we get deep into our cultural orientation and expose the potential we have as a nation in being patriotic, the Japa syndrome will reduce. Of course, like I said, this must develop vis-a-vis, this must go vis-a-vis with development. With the way the current government is going about their policies, I can tell you that in no distant future, we will begin to have a great respite with respect to our economic development, and things will get back to normal. Then, of course, we will now support such development, such success, of this government with a lot of cultural orientation. So it is good at this point that we are beginning to now think that we should carry our culture along with us, and in collaboration with National Orientation Agency, the two agencies will work together to ensure that the thinking, the orientational, direction and parameter of the typical Nigerian young and old, is brought back to greater reckoning and proper reckoning, which is the most important thing we have to do now. Because if you leave national and cultural and national orientation behind, your development becomes a fluke, complete fluke. It will not get deep. It will not get the required benefits that you think it should have. So that is the essence of cultural orientation, and those are the kind of things we need to do to be able to stem, the tide of all these brain drain syndrome, brain drain and all of that into check. So it is going to be, we're going to roll out a lot of plans, very soon, to see and to show Nigerians that we need to go back to, we need to appreciate some of these, our cultural values. Without proper cultural value, there cannot be without cultural identity, there cannot be national identity. So we need to first of all redefine, re-identify our cultural identity. Then of course our national identity, then from that we have to come up with what we call national character. Why should Nigerians go on the rail and remove rail parts? Why should Nigerians be involved in banditry and all of that? It's because of great loss of cultural value. Get back the cultural value, and there will be national character that will breed patriotism, which is what we need.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about your plans for the revival of cultural festivals in Nigeria. Now, I ask because your activities around the world spans international scene with your cultural festival, which you tagged World Songo Festival, and that has brought over 20,000 foreigners in Nigeria in 2013. So as you are the new Director General of NICO, what are your plans to revive cultural festivals at this time?
See, I'll tell you a short history, and you just got there. Some 10 years or 11 years ago, I was opportuned. I was called by the then Alaafin of Oyo to say, look, we have a product here. It's called Songo Festival. How do you make it international? I mean, in my capacity as a brand expert and a media expert, they called me. How do you make it international? How do you? And I realized that we have well over 100 million people all over the world who actually appreciate, Songo at that time, who believe that spiritually they are connected to Songo. So I said, okay, fine. The first thing to do, Kabiyesi, let's make it World Songo Festival. So we branded it World Songo Festival, and we reached out to adherents and people who are connected to this spiritual thinking at that time, in Brazil, in Cuba. And we opened a register on the internet to say, look, if you are interested in coming to Nigeria, register. And we had, like you said, 20,000 visitors at that time. If we move that to national scale, you see, because what we need in our economic development today in this country is the ability to earn foreign exchange. Why are we suffering from strangulating exchange rates? It's because we are not exporting. We are not earning dollars. And tourism is one of the biggest ways. Go to Saudi Arabia and see what tourism has done for that country. Tourism is one of the biggest ways Nigeria can revive its economy. One of the biggest ways, I repeat. And we are right now on the saddle to ensure that tourism plays a key role in our economic equation. And how do we do that? By selling our festivals, our cultural festivals outside Nigeria. Whereas, look, do you know the influx of people to Brazil to Rio de Janeiro for their festival? And that's exactly what the potentials we have as a country and the potentials we must bring back to the table for the world to appreciate. The world should not be appreciating us only for 419 and for other vices. We must be appreciated for the good things that we... Look, what we have in this country, the world is looking out for it. They are ready to pay anything to come to Nigeria to see what the potency of our culture is. But we are downplaying this, and the time is now right for us to play it up properly. So therefore, some of your festival is a very important festival that needs to attract a lot of foreigners to Nigeria. We will package all that properly. One of our mandates at NICO is to sell the image of Nigeria via our culture to the world. And that we are going to do effectively. We are going to have outposts in most countries to say, look, Nigerian culture is as potent and as original as you can feel. Come and have a feel of what we have. Our cultural values. Come on, our cultural potentials. Come and have a feel of it. We are going to put our website in very good, shape, such that from every part of the world they can access and do something about and appreciate the culture of Nigeria. So by the time we finish with all the plans, we are working closely with the Honorable Minister of Culture, Ajia Anatu Musawa, and by the time we finish all this plan, we take it to the president, and the president gives us the right approval. We're going to launch to the world the essence and the goodness of the potentials inherent in the culture of Nigeria. Nigeria is very rich, is a very culturally rich country. We need to bring it out and enhance our tourism potentials and earn good foreign exchange for this country, boost our economy, and all the jackpot you are seeing, the syndrome will come down, and people will come back home to say, oh, there are so many good things to do here in Nigeria. So we need to, first of all, put our house in order and get these things right. And we are sure we will get somewhere.
All right, Otunba, it would be a good place to end this discussion, but thank you so very much for talking to us. Of course, we will have you again another time, but it's been an interesting discussion. The Director General of the Nigerian Institute for Cultural Orientation, thank you so much for joining us at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
And of course, it was an interesting segment this morning. Of course, very, very interesting. All right, thank you very much for joining us at this point. So let's move on to sports. And AFCON is on the front burner. Mark Otabo will be coming here, of course, with his team shortly. Do stay tuned. My name is Theophilus Silema, of course. My colleague here, Adebanke Oduni, doing us so well.
So proud.
Thank you very much for watching.